hate to be the one to tell you this, but it sounds like you got a warrant out of Illinois. Why don't you step out of the car until we can identify you? Okay, go ahead and step out. Unbuckle your seatbelt and step out of the vehicle. Stop the car, man! Stop the car! Get on the brakes! Stop the car! Stop!
What is going on, guys? You're very welcome to another video here on Degenerate Watch. Thank you very much for joining me. In this video we're off to the city of Carroll in Iowa to take a look at a traffic stop, and not just any regular traffic stop. As you've seen from the intro, things go from zero to crazy real quick. And just before we hop into the video, I want to give a massive shout out to all my channel members. Thank you very much for your continued support, guys. It really does mean a lot. On the 5th of March 2021, Carroll Police Officer Patrick McCarthy seen a gentleman called Dennis James Guider Jr., who was 29, of Chicago Heights, Illinois, in the passenger seat of a car at a restaurant drive-thru. Guider had an outstanding warrant for his arrest for a forgery case in Illinois. At around 1 PM, Officer McCarthy initiated a traffic stop on the vehicle.
How's it going, guys? Hey, Dennis. Hey, hate to be the one to tell you this, but it sounds like you got a warrant out of Illinois. Okay. You got your ID on you? I'm sorry? Okay. Do you have anything on you? Okay. Why don't you step out of the car until we can identify you?
I'm assuming that Officer McCarthy has probably seen a mugshot of this guy and knows that he's wanted. That's why he stopped the car in the first place. And he's checking for the guy's ID just to be 100% sure that the guy he's talking to is the guy he's actually looking for. One thing I find quite bizarre about this traffic stop is that not only is Officer McCarthy on his own, he's already told the guy that he has a warrant and he's still in the vehicle, and most likely he knows he's going to be getting arrested. Usually officers wait until they have the suspects out of the car before they tell him the bad news about warrants and such like. Now I know different departments do different things, and I'm not quite sure what the policies of this department are, but from an officer safety point of view, in my own opinion, I'd prefer to have another officer there with me, and I'd prefer to have that gentleman out of the vehicle before I tell him he has a warrant.
You got anything on your person, man? You got anything on you? Any weapons or anything like that? What's up? Awesome. Okay, go ahead and step out.
The hesitation from these guys is giving me that we're about to flee vibe.
Hello? Go ahead and step out, man. Yeah, reach. Unbuckle your seatbelt and step out of the vehicle. Yeah, what's up?
It's just absolute sketchy behaviour now at this stage. He's been asked numerous times to get out of the car and he's just sitting there stalling. Most certainly trying to concoct a plan of escape. But what he does next shocked even me. He's just about to throw his friend out of the driver's seat and assume control of the vehicle. And that's just about the time things start to get wild.
Stop the car, man! Stop the car! 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 Stop it! Stop the car! Stop the car! Get the put on the goddamn brakes! Put on the brakes! Put on the brakes! Stop the car! Stop the car, man! Jesus! Stop the car, man!
Now I know that hindsight's a great thing, but I think it was a really bad decision for that officer to step in front of that vehicle. I know he probably wasn't expecting the guy to keep driving like that, but really put his own safety in jeopardy there. Even when the guy was moving a bit slower, he did have the opportunity to kind of slide off to the side and he wouldn't have been really injured. But for some reason this officer decided to make like the spirit of ecstasy and hang on for the ride. Coming up on this corner here, and the officer seems to defy the laws of physics by somehow managing to still cling onto the roof after taking that corner pretty hard. But this wild ride is going to come to an abrupt end very shortly as we head into some rough terrain. And just coming up around the corner here we have a massive ditch where somehow the suspect's car manages to make it across and the officer is tossed off, injuring his back. And us in the pursuing patrol car end up getting stuck in the ditch and we can't go any further.
Carroll 91, he is going north past the county shed to Highway 30. I have 1050 in a ditch. I need medics to my location. I have Officer McCarty down.
I'm okay, man. Go get him. I'm alright.
Sure? You good?
Go get him.
You have to love that officer there. Even though he's been clearly injured, all he cares about is getting after that guy and getting him brought in. And bring him in they did. He managed to drive that vehicle for about another mile before it ceased to function, and the police vehicle that was in pursuit, as we seen, got stuck in a ditch. So there were no officers behind him, so he allegedly stole another vehicle from a residential garage and drove to Illinois, where the vehicle was located by law enforcement there. The suspect, Dennis James Guider Jr., who is 29 of Chicago Heights, Illinois, pleaded guilty to serious injury by vehicle, which is a felony, and was recently sentenced to up to 5 years in prison. A felony eluding charge was dismissed as part of a plea arrangement. As I mentioned at the start of the video, the whole traffic stop started initially because Guider had an outstanding warrant for his arrest for a forgery case in Illinois. Of the incident, Guider said, "I feared for my life after the officer pulled out his gun and jumped on the hood of my car," adding that he was unarmed at the time of the traffic stop. Guider claimed another officer screamed at Officer McCarty over and over to put his gun down, but that this is not apparent in the video recording of the incident. A criminal complaint against Guider said he drove more than 50 miles an hour with McCarty on the top of the car and eventually struck a ditch. McCarty was thrown and suffered a broken vertebrae in his lower back. But the suspect Guider claims that the officer was partly at fault for the incident for pointing his gun at him and stepping onto the hood of the vehicle. To be quite honest with you, in my opinion, I'm not buying that at all. Like, first of all, if you had just got out of the car when the officer asked you, knowing that you have a forgery warrant, knowing that you're not going to get shot over a forgery warrant. But definitely speeding away from the police on a traffic stop is going to up the danger for yourself and everybody else. And of course the officer is going to draw his weapon when you start driving at him. I will say that the officer, I think, in an officer safety perspective, was wrong for stepping in front of the car and even climbing up onto the hood like that. But I don't for one minute think the officer is to blame for the guy driving off like that, because the guy started doing that and then the officer drew his weapon. That guy had long decided before that he wasn't going to hang around to go and face his warrant. He was getting out of there no matter what. That's why he pushed his friend to the side like that. Like, what friend would actually do that to their friend, push them out of the car and steal their vehicle and take it on a police chase? So that's just absolute nonsense and absolute denial as usual. Officer McCarty, a young officer who had worked for the Carroll Police Department for about 4 years before the incident, took nearly a year to fully recover from his injuries, but he was away from work for only a little more than 3 months. The police department's initial recounting of the incident indicated that McCarty had been struck by Guider's car before he went onto its hood, and McCarty told the local radio station that Guider quickly accelerated, forcing me onto the vehicle itself, but that appears to be contradicted by the officer's body camera footage, which shows the car moving slowly when McCarty stepped onto the hood. And as I said, in my opinion, I just think that was a completely bad move. He should have just stepped out of the way and let him on, and they could have given chase. As dangerous as pursuits are themselves, I think in this case, from his own safety point of view, he just should not have stepped onto that hood. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Police Chief Brad Burke did not address the discrepancy when asked for comment. Burke declined to release the video of the incident after it happened because it was evidence in a pending criminal case. But of course the video became part of the public record recently because it was used as an exhibit during Guider's sentencing hearing. The case was pending for nearly 2 years before Guider wrote to the clerk of court in February. He said he was incarcerated at an Illinois prison and wanted to take care of my case matter right away. Guider's court-appointed attorney in Iowa, Joel Baxter, asked the district court judge who presided over the sentencing hearing last week for some leniency because McCarty's actions were contrary to his training. Officer McCarty admitted during questioning by Baxter that he had not been trained to step in front of a vehicle with his weapon drawn to prevent it from fleeing. Each situation is different, McCarty said. It certainly didn't play out the way I intended. Burke, the chief of police, told the Iowa Capital Dispatch that McCarty, in the heat of the moment, made a lapse in judgment in an attempt to apprehend the suspect. This is a training point that is used for all officers going forward from this incident. Guider's attorney asked for his prison sentence in Iowa to run concurrently with his incarceration in Illinois, effectively allowing him to serve both prison terms at the same time. He said that McCarty's actions compounded the situation. We don't know what would have happened if Officer McCarty hadn't stepped in front of the vehicle, hadn't drawn his service weapon, hadn't stepped onto the vehicle, Baxter said during the sentencing hearing. That's just the same as saying we don't know what would have happened if Guider had just stepped out of the car when he was asked, hadn't pushed his friend out of the driver's seat, hadn't accelerated away. Guider's attorney also said that he was fearful of police because he is black. Carroll County Attorney John Worden, who prosecuted the case, argued Guider's prison term in Iowa should not be served concurrently with his term in Illinois because of the serious threat of injury posed to McCarthy during the chase. This is the most reckless driving behaviour I've seen in my entire career, said Worden, who has been a county attorney for more than 20 years. In the end, District Associate Judge Joseph McCarville sentenced Guider to up to 5 years of prison to be served separately from the Illinois incarceration. McCarville acknowledged that Officer McCarthy probably should have just stepped aside and let you go because you weren't wanted for murder, but said that Guider had no reason to be fearful before he tried to flee and then endangered the officer's life. Officer McCarthy was polite and respectful when he approached the car and was treating everybody with dignity, and then you kick your friend out of the car and take off, McCarville said. Guider has apologised multiple times for injuring the officer and said that he has reformed. Well, I'm sorry Mr. Guider, but I think that it's a case of too little too late. Why can't people just face up to the consequences of their actions? You had a forgery warrant, you weren't going to be shot dead for it or get the death penalty. You should have just stepped out of the car and dealt with it like a man. But instead you decided to take the coward's way out of it, endanger people's lives, and then whinge in court about how it's the other person's fault as well. And of course I'm not going to blame his attorney for sticking up for him, of course that's what he's being paid to do. But for this guy to even suggest that the officer was the whole reason why he took off, I don't think so. He had already decided he was going to flee before that gun was drawn. And luckily justice prevailed here and he didn't get to serve those jail sentences concurrently. I think in those cases, especially if it's in another state that you've been sentenced to something, you can't be in two places at the same time, so you should serve both sentences. Now I'd be really interested to know what you guys think, so definitely let me know your comments down below in the opinion. And yes, I did just say that. And that just about wraps things up for this video. I do hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to drop us a like down below as it really does help the channel out. Don't forget to make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on so you never miss out on a new video here on Degenerate Watch. Links to everything important are down below in the description, including ways you can help support the channel. You can also hit the little heart button down below this video to drop us a super thanks, which of course we're always super thankful of. Or why not consider becoming a channel member? You can find out more information about channel memberships by hitting the little join button down below this video or clicking the link down below in the description. And speaking of channel members, I want to give a massive shout out to all the crew of legends that are my channel members. Thank you very much for your continued support and encouragement. It's very much thoroughly appreciated, guys. And also big shout out to everyone that's watching this with me on the premiere. Thank you very much for joining me. As always, I'll be back in the next couple of days with another video. I do hope you'll join me then. But until next time, why not check out one of the videos that should be appearing on screen now. Until next time, guys, stay safe, take care, peace.